Bonjour, ça va? Comment ça va toi?
Ça va bien, merci.
Well, Bertrand, thanks for joining us. For everybody listening today on another episode of Behind the Scenes, this is Chris Chirico with VergX, and I have Bertrand Pourcelot, the Managing Director of Sentil Telecom Applications, a leading UCaaS, VoIP, mobility play outside in, well, pretty much globally, and now part of Enreach, where you lead the sales and marketing team globally. Bertrand, thanks a lot for joining us today. Really excited to talk to you here.
Thank you.
So, Bertrand, we've got a long history. We've worked together, we've built things together, we've had a really strategic relationship. I followed what Sentil's been up to, both in the UCaaS play and now part of Enreach, where I was very excited to be probably at one of the events before we went into a global pandemic, where it was great to meet people and speak and enjoy the sun. But before we get into more of the dialogue here, can you give our audience a little bit of a background on yourself, Sentil, and then ultimately what is Enreach? Because there's been a lot of buzz around the global roll-up and the strategic things that you're doing there. So please.
Yeah, well, thank you for the invitation. So my name is Bertrand Pourcelot, and I'm the my background is with computer science. Prior to Sentil, I've been working for more than 10 years in the space industry. So out of telecoms, within mission critical environments. And after about 10 years, I joined Sentil in its very early days as a startup. Indeed, a long journey since then. It was the first years of VoIP. We were talking about hosted VoIP, some tracks, some names who step by step have disappeared to become cloud UC and so on. So I've been Sentil with for about 20 years. And 2 years ago, Sentil was acquired by Enreach as the main foundation for the UC platform of the Enreach group. So Sentil was really a vendor, so just a vendor play, selling platform, UC platform to service providers globally, of course, with a main focus in Europe, but globally, and that's how we met. And within Enreach, that's another journey with the objective to build the leading European player in UCaaS. As you know, a lot of the UCaaS leading vendors and leading players are from US or from North America. We know some of the big names, and we really believe there's a gap in Europe to have a sizable player. There are a lot of fragmented players in this country, as Sentil was a bit somehow, because we're a French company. Yes, global, but still small size. Within Enreach, there's a much bigger ambitions with a buy and build strategy, both as a UC vendor, but also as a SaaS player, as an enabler towards partners. And we are now about 800 people. There has been more than five acquisitions. So I would say quite another size than Sentil.
So, I mean, it's just a phenomenal background, and just seeing where you guys have come and knowing that it was a small speck in the history of what you've accomplished. But talking about those 20 years, because I built companies, you built Sentil, finding the right place to go, which ultimately was Enreach. Talk to me about how you kept that culture of Sentil, now part of that roll-up, because Enreach has gone through, as you said, multiple acquisitions. I imagine you're going to go through a whole lot more as you build into the largest European UCaaS and VoIP application outside North America and globally. So how have you maintained, just knowing that you did grow Sentil, how did you maintain that it was the right culture and the right fit with Enreach? And how is, I guess, Sentil maintain that small kind of, customer first approach, now knowing you're 800 employees and expanding even more so? It's got to be challenging.
Yeah, well, I would say Centile itself, and the journey with Centile has been quite has gone through many different milestones and steps. From the early days, no infrastructure, no adoption, no channel readiness, and step by
Hmm.
step building up references, starting with the Nordics in Finland and so on, where they were a bit, I would say, ahead of the rest of Europe, and step by step growing to, I would say, one of the leading alternative at that time to the broadsoft of this world.
Right.
Within Enreach, I would say it's of course yet a bigger milestone. What makes it easier is that Enreach is built from multiple, I would say, SMEs. So each entity acquired on the main three, I would say, foundations of Enreach, which are Swix in Germany, VoiceWorks in Netherlands, and Centile in France, are three
Hmm.
SMEs. What I call SMEs, between 50 to 200 employees each. So the entrepreneurial mindset is there, and it's of course
Yep.
combining them can create a little politics and strategic discussion, but they are very, very much constructive to build up the direction together. Also, what makes it, I would say, easier, if I can say, is that the
Hmm.
Centile Infra platform is one of the core foundation of the technology of the group. So we are like ourselves a vendor into the group, building
Right.
the technology engine, of course, learning from all the different entities and technologies, because we acquired a contact center solution, we acquired some other software PBX platforms on surrounding capabilities. The latest of them being a Dutch company announced today. We acquired an AI specialist, developing some boats and so on.
Yep.
So complementary
Congratulations.
complementary technologies and services to plug to the platform. So I would say the Centile main office, which is in south of France, in one of the largest IT valleys, if I can say, near
Yep.
Nice, as you know, keep the teams well together. And of course, with COVID, it creates new challenges because we less
Right.
travel towards each other because we are present in many locations. So that creates new ways of working and of home working, which are quite interesting. But I believe we are in a
Yep.
space that makes it quite easy.
Well, talk to me about the pandemic and being in UCAS and mobility. How has the pandemic, outside of a business standpoint, from a product sales and marketing, how has this dictated your roadmap? Because I know you've got a lot of really great things from Mobis and other things on the mobility side. How has the pandemic, shifted, or how has it impacted your business from a sales, marketing, and go-to-market strategy perspective?
Yeah, it had several influences, and it keeps on having it because as you may know, France
Hmm.
is back in lockdown since
Yeah.
a few days, and many other European countries. So what it did, it has really speeded up the adoption. So what we saw at our partners, because our business is mainly indirect, so we sell to partners,
Yeah.
service providers, integrators who are proposing the UC services to the enterprise end users. So this has
Right.
speeded up the adoption, the demand from enterprises, and we built, for example, a number of programs, free soft phones, free mobile apps to favor this ramp up. So that has been one angle. Also, one thing we did is that because of the multiple technologies in the group, and we are working on this, I would say, unification, we also
Hmm.
made some efforts in some of the countries to, I would say, further develop the existing technology a little bit more because they were not ready to the transition to the unified product. So we didn't want them to fall
Hmm.
short during this COVID period. So it was very important
Right.
for us to make this, provide these tools to each of the markets, of the go-to markets.
And what do you think about, because I knew we were going to speak today, my background was in voice and it was all about communicate where you want, when you want, and how you want. And, just in North America, when I came into career, there was a hurricane, and it all of a sudden transitioned this whole on-prem to now cloud-based PBX, and then ultimately what became UCaaS. And now we're seeing kind of that, almost that same excitement, if you will, around mobility solutions because of, obviously everybody now working remote. How has the business application transitioned in your world to more of that end user experience based on this whole environment of where we live? Because the real question to you is, a lot of times on voice you speak to the business side, B2B, what is the admin able to do? But ultimately now it really is an end user that is truly remote. So has that dictated your roadmap on the product side, or how are you addressing that?
Yeah, well, it's a tricky environment, but as any tricky situation, it creates additional opportunities, because indeed you need to provide better tools for the enterprise to give more flexibility to the end users. On the other end users want to use their personal tools as well that they're getting used to use daily in the consumer space. So you really need to come with the right apps, whether it's on desktop or on mobile, and that's a big focus on the user experience that we have. It's true that I think we're moving from a very top-down, structured enterprise environment, whether it is through the channels, or inside the enterprise with a lot of controls and so on, to a more, I would say, self-organized people. You need to really create the adoption by the end user. You cannot really enforce it, so it has to be simple, easy to use, favor the UX, and I think that's a big part of the revolution of the smartphone. That make it easy for everybody, even for grandpa, grandma, everybody in the house. Well, my grandparents still have some difficulties, but maybe that's a personal thing. But so really, this adoption has really changed, and we saw the boom also with Zoom. Zoom moving from this B2B tool to this like world-known and world-famous consumer application, #1 in the downloads and so on. So that was very interesting for us, because we have a partnership with Zoom from some years ago. Also, we also have Enreach, our own WebRTC video collaboration solution. So providing the right tool for the different players, and each enterprise and each end user has a different need. Even if you can find commonalities, some want more control, some others want more freedom, and that depends on the enterprise culture, and also the generation, the age of people as well, also the countries and the atmospheres in the enterprise. We can find that as well in the home working. Some enterprise are pushing everybody home, no problem. Others are like, no, please, you have to come. I'd like to see you at least some days in the office. So a number of cultural impacts to be that we need to take into account in our products.
Well, and you managing global sales and marketing and the different regions inside of just Europe and worldwide is obviously a daunting task at times, I could imagine. So you brought up the channel, and I do want to ask you, because you're leading sales. A lot of the people that watch this video, are service providers, they're MSPs, conventional type agency sources. Talk about what you're seeing in the distribution side of the market, and what has that channel partner characteristic been over the years? Has it transitioned more into UCaaS, or are you seeing more of your products being bolted onto more core technology such as SD-WAN? Sorry, Bertrand, had to do the shameless plug there for SD-WAN. But what are you seeing in the channel and just that channel partner, how they've evolved, in your opinion?
Well, it has been, I would say, already we've seen many changes. In the earlier days, channels were quite reluctant to cloud. Especially the telecom channels, they saw that as a threat. Now they are endorsing it, providing the end-to-end value proposition to the end users. The end-to-end quality of service, customizing the solutions to the need of the end users. Infrastructure, you mentioned SD-WAN is key. So the channel can be one of the main, I would say, player to guarantee it end to end. Also, we see some of the channels increasing their value into CRM integration, ERP, vertical applications integration in the world of APIs, which are more and more, I would say, important. So I think there is a big change in the channel. Some are doing it, I would say, naturally. Others are a bit reluctant, or maybe they are not even reluctant, but that's a challenging transformation from CapEx to OpEx, from maintenance revenue to subscription revenues. That has really evolved. We see differences between, I would say, more telecom channels and IT channels. We also see some vertical players who want to bundle end-to-end the solution. So they were selling, I don't know, software to the healthcare, and they say, why wouldn't I bundle now the end-to-end telecommunication, because I'm a trusted supplier in the healthcare sector. So I believe in this verticalization. We see also more and more mobile-first approach, even mobile-only, especially in Nordics, and we start to see that in France as well. And when you combine mobile-first with verticalization, you can create interesting mixes and bundles in the market.
So basically, you're seeing a lot of that wrapping their value prop, going to the vertical integration, laying on more of the different technologies that they have there to ultimately expand inside that, core, well, whether it's a product offering, a customer sector, or something like that. But definitely on the mobility side, you're seeing a huge uptick in just, a leading in on that one. That's really good to know because, again, a lot of the folks that'll be listening to this, a lot on the UCaaS side, a lot inside the channel, a lot of MSPs. So getting an expert such as yourself telling us, what you're seeing in the market is really, really helpful. I want to go back, though, because you are an engineer, okay, which means you're the smartest person definitely on this call. You lead sales and marketing, okay. What do you see in the market, or where is the market going from a technology? Is there something that is exciting you that our audience should keep an eye on? And that could be related to, voice, UCaaS, contact center, or it could be something outside and on your, just out there and not part of your core competency today. So really interested.
Well, I would see maybe two main areas. One is more related to cloud industry in general and cloud technologies, having cloud native solutions. So it's about, how you can evolve your platform fast enough, do, partial upgrades, dynamic, how you can scale, how you can automate, both automation of these upgrades and so on, how you make available continuously new capabilities, new services in the market. We talk about also hyperscale, the big cloud providers. So I think that's a challenge for service providers on which boat I should jump on, building my own stuff or just going on the hyperscalers. So that puts a lot of demands on the software, on the solutions, and I see really big requirements there, also in the automation, self-service part. And then there is all the more end user UX value proposition and expectations, where we see some changes. We can see how the consumer market, is evolving fast, providing always better solutions, easier to use, richer. So that creates a lot of, I would say, requirements also to the B2B segment. Also on AI, on transcription, emotion detection, IoT, new devices, new equipments, new screens for video collaboration, for home screens, presence detection. So all these things can be combined smartly. So the challenge is how you combine them, how you pre-make some services, and how you give control to the end users, what he wants to use, what he doesn't want to use, what he wants to automatize, what he wants to keep control of and do it as he wants. And I think that's
Yeah.
The players who can provide the right trade-off and the right flexibility will likely win this game.
Very interesting. So from a Enreach standpoint, what should we be on the lookout for? Whether it's more acquisitions, which I'm sure you're not able to talk about, but what about on a product side? What are you excited about that we should keep an eye out on?
Well, we have two big, I would say, strategic projects. One is called Infinity, which is the technology platform unification, so that we can plug all the acquisition and the acquired technologies to it in the fields of AI, on contact center, reporting, analytics, which are key topics in the market. And the second, I would say, avenue strategic project is the Harmony project, which is all about UX. So really providing, I don't like the next generation, but it's a continuous improvement of the UX from simple to more complete, because we have different uses. We have different persona in these environments. Some are like standard users, some are like power user, if I can say, with special needs in their day-to-day.
Yep.
So provide the right UX for all these different needs is really tricky. I like to say sometimes it's very complex to make it simple. So
I love that you say it's just a continuation and the ongoing improvements rather than next gen, like it's the latest and greatest, because you're always enhancing, your product offering and what you have there. So, I know we're running out of time here, but we've had a lot of success jointly. Obviously us on the SD-WAN piece now, VergX, being able to leverage that integration with Sentinel applications or core Enreach so that your service providers can really get to market. But where are you seeing SD-WAN really fitting into your go-to-market strategy and also your service providers?
Well, infrastructure, as I said a few minutes ago, is a key element for the end-to-end quality of service and quality of experience. And of course, SD-WAN is really bringing flexibility in that space in terms of time to market, in terms of combining different type of access technologies. And I think also because UC is going step by step over the top, and over the top is very often understood as, just oversize and you'll get a good quality, or best efforts and just spray. So even if codecs and technologies have improved, there are challenges on the underlying infrastructure, and I believe SD-WAN is really a great tool for that. We see adoption at many of our customers and in the different markets. Of course, it depends also on the quality of the access technologies. Fiber penetration is coming fast in some European countries. So we talk about like 5G coming as well, with some countries adopting it very fast, with some reluctances in others, which can be about health impact or whatever environment impact. We hear a lot about this in France lately. So SD-WAN is really kind of a Swiss knife to adjust all these and make it work, whatever the underlying solutions, or at least you taking the best of each of the underlying technologies.
Excellent. Well, Bertrand, I've typically asked a lot of our guests the same question, but if you overheard the market speaking about Sentinel or Enreach, what would you like to hear them say about your organization?
Well, I think our organization, I'd like them to say, that we are big enough to matter, but small enough to care. And I think that's a nice play in this market where you have giants on the one hand and tiny local players. So being a proximity player, but with sizable capabilities as well to guarantee, to be future-proof, to have a nice innovation. So I think that's what I'd like them to think about our organization and feel it day to day as a partner, to be big enough to care and small enough to matter. That's very important in my opinion. And maybe the second angle is we talk a lot about UX, so trying to change the way people communicate or get in contact with each other with the right simplicity and the right control to the end users, whether it's the end users themselves or the enterprise players or the partners at the different levels in the of the value chain. So that would be the two, I would say, main messages.
I'll tell you, from my experience, you're definitely achieving all of those things. And again, I'd really like to thank you for your time today, joining us on another episode of Behind the Scenes. For our viewers today, we have the man who has brought Centile to market, grew it, now is part of Enreach, Bertrand Pourcelot, the Managing Director of Centile and Head of Sales and Marketing globally for Enreach. Bertrand, thanks again.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was a pleasure. Thank you.